Hello, yogis. It's me, Pearl, and we are continuing on with our chakra series. And today we'll be doing the sacral chakra. So, this is a chakra primarily dealing with this watery, fluid sensuality and emotions and everything kind of like fluid and gooey. And primarily, we'll be focusing our practice in the hip space here. So opening it up on all different sides. And I'll encourage you throughout the practice to come to a visualization of this space in the pelvic bones, at the actual sacrum of the spine, and just imagining this orange globe of energy swirling in this space. And throughout our practice, I'll offer some affirmations in particular postures. And feel free to use these affirmations if they resonate with you, but if something else resonates with you a little bit more, having to deal with emotions, sensuality, creativity, I'll encourage you to say those to yourself instead so that it seeps a little bit deeper into your whole body. So, first, we're going to get started with a little bit of breath work and some movement of the hips just to kind of start to open up through the space. Now, if you happen to have a bolster, blanket, blocks, all of that is great. You don't need it, but it's very helpful. And I'll encourage you, if you do happen to have a blanket, to sit on top of the blanket for this first portion, since we're going to be rocking on the hips a little bit back and forth. It also helps to elongate through the spine and just finding centeredness a little bit easier. So let's ground into our bodies and gently close the eyes, draw the awareness internal. And coming into that visualization in the hip space, this orange circular motion of energy in this space. Maybe settling the breath a bit, slower, more complete exhalations. Okay. And feel free to keep the eyes closed if that's what feels comfortable to you. Otherwise, feel free to look up at me and get a little visual representation of where we're heading. Let's take a Varun Mudra with the hands. So this is a water mudra here. And it is done by placing the tip of the finger and the tip of the thumb together, and the other three fingers in between are relatively relaxed. You can do that with both hands and gently rest them onto the knees or the lap, however you're easily seated. And maybe continue to keep the eyes closed just for another moment. See how that hand gesture maybe affects how you feel in this particular posture. And then following a natural rhythm of the breath, let's begin to gently rock the pelvis forward and backward. So a few things, filling the bowl and tipping it forward and then tipping it back. So to give you a little bit more representation here, slowly pressing the belly forward and then slowly letting the belly come back in towards the spine. Now feel free to use your inhalations on when the pelvic bowl spills forward, and just a gentle exhalation as the bowl tips back behind you. Now, again, I'll always encourage you to close your eyes so that you can connect into the movement a little bit more, but feel free to just increase that range a little bit more each time. Maybe the rest of the spine starts to follow, but more focused in on the hips for this particular moment. Make it as gentle as you need to be, and always checking in with the body, making sure that it feels good and safe to make the movement happen with ease. Return back into a neutral seat in the pelvic bowl, elongating through the spine. Maybe the heart sits a little higher towards the sky. Just settling back into a moment of stillness, just to notice how that feels. What's the difference? Is there any change to recognize? And then let's shift the hands onto this lowest space in the belly. So kind of right into this like energetic womb, so to speak. And I'll invite you to chant with me the sound of our sacral chakra, which is VAM, V-A-M. And you can elongate that as much as the breath will sustain. And we'll take 3 rounds. First, we'll start with a cleansing breath to help fill up the body with some breath to power the chant. And slow inhale to VAM. Breathing naturally, letting that sound reverberate for a moment. And gently open up through the eyes, and let's start to shift into our first posture. So this next posture is amazing if you have some props available, again, and not a complete necessary component here. If you don't, you want to make this as accessible as possible. But if you happen to have all of these props, let's set up for a reclined butterfly position. So just depending upon how thick your bolster is. And again, if you just have a blanket, feel free to roll up the blanket into a log shape so that you can place it underneath the spine. So setting your bolster up at a bit of an angle here, feel free to open up the blanket at the base of the bolster to add a little cushion for the hips here. And placing the sacrum right at the bottom of the bolster. Now again, you can do this completely on the back, nothing underneath you. And then slowly lower down onto the spine here. The soles of the feet together, the knees wide for a butterfly position with the legs. And then letting the spine and the hips settle, maybe a little gentle rocking side to side just to notice what kind of energy is there right away. And Once the hips have settled, let's start to open up through the chest just a little bit, because I love to do that in this particular posture. So starting to reach the hands out to the side and up overhead, and thinking of like a snow angel motion here. Um, Keeping the hands gently reaching towards the ground as you make the movement. Maybe take about 3 rounds of movement in this big circular motion with the arms here. Yeah, so feel free to allow the arms and the hands to rest anywhere on that snow angel circle, or if it feels a little bit better to help maintain the focus around this particular sacral chakra area, and place the hands onto the belly. Sometimes interlacing the hands will be a little bit easier because your elbows want to fall toward the ground, but choice is yours there. Feel free to close the eyes, and I'm coming into a little bit of stillness here. So for most of us, if there's no low back issues, this will be relatively relaxing and a bit opening in the hips. As we're here, breathe into the belly space to encourage that openness to occur in this lowest space of the belly. Taking a moment to notice any emotions that arise in this particular posture, in this somewhat vulnerable position we've put ourselves in. And here I will offer our first affirmation, which is I am creative, sensual, and open to joy. So if that resonates with you, any part of it or all of it, repeating it to yourself 3 times. And just taking note of any sensations of settling or of anything, acknowledging the shifts, although subtle, happening within the body space. And at any point in the practice, if the mind wanders away from the practice, always returning back to some anchor. The breath can be that anchor. The visualization of the chakra can be that anchor. Your mantra, your affirmation can be that anchor. Something to gently draw you back. Taking about 5 more rounds of breath right into that low belly space. And so as you are ready, let's start to open up through the eyes and begin to place the soles of the feet into the mat. And if you're on the back, just stay on the back and hug the knees into the chest. But if you're on the bolster like I am, let's just slowly pull ourselves up. Wrap the arms around the backs of the thighs, pull the thighs close to the chest, maybe chin tucks to the chest as well, just rounding the spine here for a moment, breathing into the back body. And then releasing the bind, and let's remove the bolster and the blocks out of the equation if you're using those. After you've removed them out of the equation, you can take a very slow ascent all the way down onto the back body. Feel free to keep the blanket there if it suits you. Once you're on the back, shifting into happy baby pose. So knees will come wide, soles of the feet to face up towards the ceiling here. And we're going to hold here for a moment. So now if the feet tend to be a little far away here, feel free to hold onto the backs of the thighs, still drawing knees down towards the ground and in towards the sides of the ribs. It can also be a little less intense than that if you're feeling more restorative, but I'm going to hold any part of the feet here, any part of the leg, and a little bit of resistance of drawing shoulder blades back towards the spine, gentle pressing of the spine into the ground. And we won't sustain it for that long, but definitely enough time to notice you've been there for a little bit. Feel free to close the eyes, and even though there's effort in the arms, trying to let the legs be relatively relaxed. Coming into a rhythmic breath, just as much equal inhale as there is equal exhale. And spend just another 4 rounds of breath here. And let's slowly release the bind and start extending the legs out away from the hips and reaching the hands up overhead, just extending into a nice full body stretch here for a moment. And then on the exhale, bend into the knees, soles of the feet into the mat. Place the hands onto the belly, letting the low back relax for just a moment, neutralizing here. Let's start to make our way back up. So there's several things that you can do. You can kind of rock and roll up to seated, whatever is going to make it easiest for you. I just realized it got very dark in here. And let's come up into a tabletop position. So onto the hands and knees. And a blanket underneath the knees will be very nice for this next portion, especially if you have sensitive knees. But if you're on a softer ground, maybe not as important. And so let's go through just a little bit of cat-cow here. So a couple rounds just to move through the hip space a little bit more. So as you inhale, gently lift the tailbone, lift the gaze to the ceiling. And as you exhale, round it out. Tuck the chin, tuck the chest. Nice slow inhale, returning back. And exhale to round out. And inhale back to neutral. And get this bolster out of the way. Let's extend the left leg straight back behind here. It's just getting into a little of the outer hip here. Keep the leg extended, keep the leg engaged, and on an exhale, and cross the left leg over the right leg. Now the pinky edge of the foot will come down to the ground. You'll keep the toes dorsiflex back towards the shin. And maybe that's enough. Just a gentle press of the hips away from the foot. Maybe even walking the hands a little closer to the foot. And then breathing into the belly space. Every exhale, the heart moves a little closer towards the foot. And on the inhale, slowly extend the leg back behind us again. And as you exhale, let's place the left foot to the left side of the left hand at the top of the mat. Maybe a little lighter than what I just planted. So allow the hips to sink down towards the ground here. And this is where blocks may or may not be helpful. I'd like to place a block underneath my right hand, maybe even 2 blocks. And left hand to the inside of the left knee here. Gently press the left knee away from the chest, and the pinky edge of that left foot can roll onto the floor. The right hip sinks down towards the ground as you shift the gaze over the left shoulder towards the wall behind you. And breathing into the belly space. Now if the right arm gets a little tired, the right hand or wrist want to rest, you can lower down onto the forearm, and that's where a couple of blocks are a little bit more helpful than one. Once you've settled, and the gaze is over the shoulder, breathing into that belly space. Maybe relaxing through the jaw. And we'll come into our second affirmation here, which is, I embrace my desires. If that resonates with you, repeating that to yourself 3 times. And maybe not just saying it to yourself, but even visualizing yourself wrapping your arms around those desires. Let's take our last 3 good deep rounds of breath here. and very slowly release. So take your time to release. Place both hands to the inside of the foot. And then feel free to tuck the toes and send the left foot all the way up into a three-legged dog. But you can also just remain on that right knee and just circling the thigh bone in that hip socket in both directions, just giving a little release through that space. Now, when you feel complete with that, slowly lower the knee back down, coming back into tabletop position. Before we shift into the next side, let's just neutralize a bit here with some of those cat-cows again. So inhale, lifting the tailbone, lifting the gaze. Exhale, let all the breath come out as you round the whole spine. One more. Inhaling back into neutral. And as you exhale, extending the right leg straight back behind. Now, as a reminder, we're staying active in the leg here as we bring the right leg behind the left leg. Flex the toes. Quad is engaged. And maybe walking the hands a little closer. Breathing into that low belly space. Leg stays engaged, foot stays engaged. 3 rounds of breath into the belly. Now, with the inhalation, return to center, extending the right leg straight back behind. And exhale to place the right foot next to the right hand. And sinking those hips down towards the ground again, finding that heaviness in the hips. This is really kind of the base of the stretch. The pressing of the knee is just a little extra cherry on top. So feel free to use support if you'd like. Maybe place a block underneath that left hand to help elevate the chest a little further away from the ground. And placing the right hand to the right knee, pressing the right knee away, letting left hip sink down towards the ground. And taking the gaze over the shoulder again. So again, staying relatively strong in this left shoulder. Try not to let your shoulder kind of creep towards the ear. Still supportive, and you always have that option to lower to the forearm if it gets a little too tired in the wrist or hand. Once the gaze is over the shoulder, awareness is internal. If the affirmation resonated with you, repeating it, I embrace my desires. Equalizing the breath. And coming up on our last 3 deep rounds of breath here. And so remember, slow and steady out of this posture. So really take your time. Placing hands back to the mat. And setting the right leg up and back again. Option to do a three-legged dog with that left knee up off the ground, but some big circles with the right hip here, going in both directions. And as you exhale, lower the knee down into the mat. I'm going to take a seat for just a moment and feel free to do the same as I explain the next posture. So we're shifting into frog pose here. Now, if you have any issues with your knees or ankles, my suggestion is to work in a wide knee child's pose first, and then slowly progress into the frog after that. And also, just even if you don't have any issues with your knees or ankles, you can choose that path as well. And just making sure that we're listening to the body. We want uncomfortability in the posture, but we don't want pain. So distinguishing between those two things. So child's pose, if you want to take that option, knees wide, big toes to touch. We're walking the hands forward, lowering the chest towards the ground. And if you want to work into frog pose, my suggestion is to have some sort of blanket underneath the knees. And I'm going to come sideways here. Not typical for me to do it this way, but hopefully you guys can see what I'm talking about a little bit better. It's nice to have some potential supportive blocks or a bolster out in front of you. And starting in tabletop position, walking the knees and the feet simultaneously out and away from each other. So for some of us, right here is going to be a nice stopping point, and that's great. You can kind of let the body settle there. Most important thing here is to keep those toes dorsiflex back towards the shin, just like we were before, and a slow walking out away from each other. Try to stay as close to 90 degrees at the ankle, hip, and knee here. And you're welcome to lower the chest towards the ground. Maybe use blocks underneath your elbows or underneath your head. Use that as support. And it can be quite intense here on the inner groin. So again, just making sure that the body listens, but also allowing some opportunity for softening and relaxing into that space. So I can't at the moment, but you can, of course, come all the way down onto the belly and the chest here if that's available to you. Breathing into the belly space. And we'll come into another affirmation here. I am open, I am creative, and I am passionate. I feel free to use all of those. 1, 2, whatever resonates. And encouraging a little bit of softness here with every exhalation. Just 1 more minute here. And last round of breath. So coming out slow, same way you came in. So leaning to one side, inching the knee in, taking your time. Eventually, bringing the knees back together completely. Bring the feet together. And shifting into a narrow knee child's pose. So knees together, feet together. Letting the torso come over the thighs. We won't sustain this. Place the hands next to the feet, or you can use the hands as a support underneath the head, maybe stacking forearms or hands here. Just breathing into the back body. And with the inhale, let's slowly begin to rise up and back into tabletop position. So from tabletop, widen the hands a little bit wider than shoulder width apart. Knees can remain together. And taking some big hip circles, the hips to the side, forward towards the wrist, to the other side, back to the heels. Just allowing the outer hip to kind of lead the way here. And taking a couple in each direction, so both clockwise and counterclockwise. And then slowly coming back to center. Now feel free to sit. As I explained the next posture, there's quite a number of more complex postures in this series. Coming into a half saddle pose. So this is another posture where knee and ankle injuries are usually a culprit, and I'll do my best to help support you if that is true for you. So sitting up taller away from the ground is the best way to support if you do have those issues. So if you happen to have blocks, and this could be anything, this could almost be just anything that you can comfortably sit on. It can be a number of pillows that you sit on. It can be stacked blankets to get a very appropriate size for yourself. But I'll show you what it will look like with a couple of blocks underneath the hips first. So this is a lot of support for me. And we'll keep the left knee bent and the right leg out in front of us here. So this is our half saddle pose. And you're welcome to stay here just seated upright. And sometimes the top of the ankle gets a little annoyed here. Feel free to roll up the blanket to place it underneath the ankle joint. Sometimes the knee gets a little bothersome. Just sit up a little bit higher if that's the case, if you have that availability. And then on the contrary, some of us don't need that much support and we're a little bit closer to the ground, maybe taking one block out of the equation, maybe even taking both blocks out of the equation. And if that's the case for you, just sitting down on the inside of the heel, not sitting on top of the foot. And then same thing, feel free to sit upright here. You can also start to lean back. Maybe place the hands behind you, opening up through the front of the claw. You also have the option to lower all the way down onto forearms, maybe even all the way down onto the back body. Now, if that feels okay for you, then staying there. And again, just take your time getting into it. There's no rush. We're here for several minutes, so however long it takes you to kind of get into that spot. It may even take the whole posture for you to find a resting point. But always listening to the body, making sure that it's number one here. Once you've arrived, breathing into the belly space again. Doing slow, mindful breaths there. Letting our visualization of the chakra center here, inside the hip space, inside the pelvic bones, still be in our minds. And softening into any resistance here. So coming into this water element again, just allow the breath to be this wave you ride, helping it to wash away any hardness here. The last 3 rounds of breath here. And so take your time to release. If you're all the way on the back like I am, feel free to prop yourself up on the forearms first, then onto the hands. And once you're upright, leaning over to the right to extend the left leg out front, just straightening out that leg. Ooh, there's a lot of compression in the knee joint. Once you're upright and the legs are extended, just a little windshield wiper of the feet here. Feel free to go opposite direction, same direction, just a little movement into that hip socket. Good. Pausing here, resting the hands onto the lap, just sitting up nice and tall for a moment. Now when you're ready, let's shift to the other side. And as always, with all postures, one side might be a little bit more distinguished than the other one. So feel free to start all the way from the top again. Sitting high, starting to slowly make your way down. For this side, right leg is bent, left knee is extended. And for me, I do think that I need a little bit more support here. So I'm maybe going to inch my way down on this side, just to kind of let my whole body soften into it nice and slow. So same as before, sitting upright, an option. You can sustain for the whole time. Also maybe lean back at some point, starting to open up through the front side of the hip. You can also lower all the way down onto the back body. This side's going to take a little bit of extra care for me, and I encourage you to do the same. It's not a game about making everything absolutely symmetrical, but more about just listening and answering any request from the body. Coming back into a belly breath once you've arrived here. Maybe closing the eyes. Now maybe one more affirmation here, which will be, I am fluid and I go with the flow. Taking our last 3 rounds of breath here. And so just like the previous side, take your time to come out. No need to rush. We're all at different spaces here. So once you have, come upright, leaning to the left and extending that right leg out in front here. Yeah, feel free to place the hands behind you. You're coming back into that windshield wiper of the feet. You can do one more little extra hip movement here. So feel free to continue to place the hands behind you, bend into the knees, separate the feet wider than the hips, and windshield wiper the shins side to side from there. So feel free to continue to have your blanket there if you like it there. I'm going to remove mine so that I can place it on top of myself for a little compression, a little bit of warmth. It's raining here, and it does not typically rain, so we're feeling a little extra cozy today. So let's make our way onto the back of the body and preparing for Shavasana. So if you know that you want to support your Shavasana in a particular way, you're welcome to. I'm going to support mine by taking my blanket on top of my belly and adding a little bit of warmth here, as well as keeping my knees bent so that my sacrum can make contact with the earth. And this allows us to really ground down the sacrum in a very stable position before we complete our practice. A nice little way to like connect with the earth and experience a little bit of stability with all this like watery, fluidy, sensual energy that we kind of cultivate. It's a nice way to integrate by doing a little bit of that opposite energy. So you're welcome to rest the low back onto the mat. Maybe the hands are placed around the belly space. And let's close the eyes if that feels comfortable. Otherwise, keeping the eyes open is totally an option. Trying to look at something and combining into that drishti, into that gaze. Allow the breath to settle, allow the low back to settle. And resting for a little bit before we complete the practice here. Stay aware, stay connected to the moment. And let's gently deepen the breath. Just noticing any heaviness of the body, any sensation in the body, reconnecting back to this vessel. And from there, encouraging a little bit of movement here. Or circles, ankle circles, gently rocking the head side to side. And then a slow hug of the knees into the chest, giving yourself a good squeeze. Good, as you're ready, very slow ascent up to seated. Maybe you're rocking, maybe you roll to the left side and then press up into a seat. Whatever's easiest for you, no real restriction. Amazing. Once you've gotten up, let's just take a little bit of circular movement over the hips here. So just kind of like swirling a little bit of energy in this hip space just to re-enliven the space before we get up and get on with the rest of the day. So both clockwise and counterclockwise in these circular motions here. So just thinking of the heart as the movement here. Moving the heart forward, to the side, back. And when you feel complete with that movement, and slowly centering yourself right over the hips, coming into an elongated spine. We'll come back into our mudra again. So pinky and thumb connect, the rest of the fingers extend. And we'll complete our practice with our Vam chant 3 more times. So feel free to join me. If not, maybe humming or just listening. So first, a cleansing breath. Slow, deep breath in. Open mouth, exhale. Inhaling to chant. Va. And place the palms together, thumbs into the heart. Thank you so much for joining me, for trusting me with guiding you through this practice here. See you next time and continuing our chakra series. Thanks for joining.